Megan.
I'm Anna.
And we are very excited to spotlight an amazing company today that's been around for 200 years. We are here with resident historian of Coates & Clark, and this is Lynn Brown. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, Lynn is sort of this time capsule of information when it comes to the history here of Coates & Clark, and we're going to talk sort of a little bit about some key points over the last 200 years that bring us to modern day.
Okay. Well, if we want to go to the very beginning, it started in Paisley, Scotland. And at the time in that area, they were making shawls and they needed silk for the production of the shawls. But Napoleon blockaded the trade routes in Europe, so they were not able to get it. Well, Patrick Clark came up with a way to twist cotton thread to use in the production of the shawls.
So it was time to get creative.
That's right. That's right. And then it was soon discovered it made a good sewing thread. So that's how it all got started. So around 1812, they built the first factory for producing cotton thread for sewing, and not too far behind him, another person in that district, Coates, J.M.P. Coates, built a factory as well to produce thread. So that's how it all got started in Paisley, Scotland. So they got up and running, and then soon they were sending selling agents to the U.S. to kind of test the market there. And the first thread actually came over with British sailing captains, and then it began to come into the United States. The first factory here was in Newark, New Jersey, and that was the Clarks. And then a little bit later, the J.M.P. Coates were in Pawtucket. Actually, I like to say, we know James and Patrick Coates. They sent one of their other brothers, Andrew, to the U.S. to kind of test the market, and we're going to be looking at some archival items that actually have Andrew Coates' name on it in a little bit.
Oh, neat. I was like, okay, good. So Andrew does get some recognition here.
So anyway, once they were in the U.S., the sewing machine was invented, and that created a whole new need for thread. And George Clark found a way to make a more smooth thread to use in the sewing machine, because before that, the thread was just used for hand sewing. It was stiff, it wasn't even, so it wouldn't run through this new invention. But he invented that, and he called it ONT, which stands for Our New Thread. So and a lot of people, you're familiar with the ONT logo or trademark. It became one of the best known logos or trademarks from the time, and you still see it on spools. If you have wooden spools in your cabinet, they may have ONT on them. And so in the from 1875 to 1900, both families got established, and then they really didn't merge, but they were still represented by a merchandising association called the Spool Cotton Company. So if you have maybe an old thread cabinet that you found or collected, it may say on it the Spool Cotton Company, and that's where that came from. It wasn't really until 1954 that we became Coates & Clark, when all of the interests were completely merged together, even though they had overlapped for some time.
Very cool. And I suppose that's sort of 200 years in a nutshell, so to speak. So, you're so funny.
This is one of the oldest pieces we have in our archives. It was thread that actually was manufactured, and it has on it made in Great Britain. So it would have been before we had factories here in the U.S. The other interesting thing, we are not the first to try to do thread assortment promotions. They were doing them in the late 1800s, little thread boxes, sewing kits. This is a wonderful piece that has actually sizes on each hole, and you pull the thread through for the size that you need during your sewing. You see the thread on the color cards? These were actually fashion forecasts that were put out. You can see this one is from 1883, the spring shades. So each season they actually did these, even in the late 1800s. The little box here with the lion and eagle, everybody knows Clark's ONT, but during that same time frame, J.M.P. Coates' trademark was the lion and the eagle, which just was not as familiar. The ONT was what seemed to stick and catch on. The other cards that you see laying here are called advertising or trade cards. Many of you may have these in your collections. There were literally hundreds done, and they were children, they were storybooks, they commemorated different events that happened during the period. They are really charming in their style and their artwork.
Great. Now, I know as sort of a celebration of your 200 years, you guys have reissued some of these cards, right? So let's head back over because I think I see my mom playing with a few of them over here. Now, these are a few of the cards that we were mentioning before. So this is sort of a redistribution of an old...
It's a reissuing of some of the old trade cards and has a little calendar on back. Sort of a favor that we're, like a birthday favor, that we're doing for the anniversary this year.
Can we talk about this beautiful chest that this is sitting on?
Yes, that is an old thread cabinet. It would have been in a general store. The various selling agents had different styles. This is a Clark's Mile Inn, which was from the Glasgow Clark's. Clark's O&T was from the Paisley's Clark's, and then you may have a J&P Coates one. So there were different ones issued, and they were worth, in their day, almost $8 a piece.
That's it? Ooh, I tell you. So now,
a little bit more today.
Were you going to ask something?
Yeah, thank you. Lynn, so our viewers at home, if they really want to see more of these beautiful pieces like this, what special thing does Coates & Clark have up their sleeve?
Take us back. We have just launched an online history museum, and it's Coates & Clark 200 years. It has a beautiful timeline of our history, but it also has an opportunity for consumers, sewers to share stories. That's one of the wonderful things about working for Coates & Clark. When you tell people where they work, they're like, oh, my grandmother always used that thread, or I have some of your wooden spools at home. So this is a chance to see our history and to tell us your history.
And we'll have an opportunity to see some great visuals and learn a bit about some of the wonderful artists that you work with that design pieces like this beautiful Mona Lisa over here on the side, which is made solely out of thread, which is insane to me. So go ahead and visit coatesandclark200years.com to learn more about its 200-year anniversary and to wish them a happy birthday by sharing your story. Lynn, thank you so much for having us. She is like a lockbox of information. So coatesandclark200years.com.